I feel like when you're properly spiritually oriented, there's like a fountain within you. You can get to that point where there's nothing missing, and that you can be at peace in any situation. Kind of reminds me of this idea that I came across, which was sort of like Buddha might be the beginning of awakening, but Jesus is the end of awakening. It's like two different iterations of human beings sort of coming into the truth. Buddha's kind of saying, get to the point where nothing matters. I don't think that's the end. I think that's the beginning. Because Jesus is kind of saying everything matters. And again, I'm not an expert. People want to correct me. I'm all for it. Maybe I'm not thinking about this right. Yeah, I get it. There's always, you can't see your name here. There's always something missing, but you keep hanging on. And that's what I think spirituality and, true knowledge of the spiritual nature of existence can do for people. It's a lot of fun to speculate about a lot of these things, but at the end of the day, just being able to sit somewhere and look at the clouds and be at peace is like a real blessing and a gift. It's not something I really could do when I was an atheist successfully, because the mind is always running. It's hard to really truly be at peace and just to enjoy a moment. And the older I get, I'm thankful that the easier that has gotten. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and for all the love. Really appreciate it. I know sometimes these live streams are a little weird because I do tend to go all over the place, and I think that's why I resisted them. Hopefully over time I'll get better at this. We'll see. So this is a new thing, and I appreciate you guys' patience. When did you find God? 2013. A lot of people were anticipating 2012 as December 2012 as this big shift. It was like 2012, the end of the system, whatever people thought it was, the Mayan calendar. There's all these different angles on it. I never took it seriously, but then in January 2013, I did wake up to all this stuff. So maybe there was a real shift. Somebody's asking, is that when my kids were born? No, I woke up January 2013, realized the truth, and then by March 2013, I met a woman who later became my wife. So my first son is about 10 now, and he's about to turn 11, and we have a second son who's 7. Clearly, that has changed a lot in my life. There's no way that I could have sustained a relationship, let alone been a good parent, in the state that I was in before. And so there is some kind of poetic sort of thing about what happened to me in that way, that right before I was going to meet this woman, I have this monumental awakening, and it all seemed like providence at the time. I really was sort of letting God take the wheel to a really strong degree when it came to dating. A lot of my depression and my sorrow before that was because my relationships were destructive and unsatisfying, and they were really damaging me. And I was trying to fill something within me with women and alcohol to some degree. I was trying to fill the void with these other things, It wasn't until I had an experience of wholeness that I think that I was even a good enough candidate to be a husband to somebody or a father to somebody. I try to really stay focused on the gratitude that I was given this gift, My wife and kids, it's like I said this the other day, they really are the center of the world at this point for me. It's been a big part of my spiritual growth, to be a parent. And I think even if you don't have kids yourself, anytime you're trying to mentor somebody and I try not to recommend everybody should have kids, because I don't know that that's the right approach. Everybody should become a mentor to a young person. It is important to master something, because mastering any skill can really teach you a lot about life itself, and it'll teach you about your strengths, your weaknesses. Anytime you're doing anything where you're really focusing on a discipline to increase your utility, let's say. Because of my materialist background, I do tend to look at these things in a kind of mechanical way. And, the order of the universe, I believe, is a spiritual part of it. It's where the order that's coming out of the chaos in the material world is where, I think Josh mentioned this, it is where the spirit and material realms meet, where these spontaneous organization of matter into biology and all these things.